welcome in to Texans Today. A loaded show on tap for you today. We've got roster moves. We got injury news. We've got a possible suspension on the horizon. I'm breaking down all that and more here on Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. Welcome in to today's show. And let's get right to it. We got a loaded show on tap for you today. The biggest news coming out today, Brevin Jordan placed on IR. And I was just talking to producer Cullen about this. He said, hey, what happened? I saw him playing on Sunday night. I said, I know, me too. I mean, maybe it's a injury that happened afterwards. Maybe it's something that happened, outside of the playing field. Maybe it happened at his house. Maybe him, stretching, working out, doing something. That is not known yet. All that is known is, for right now, Brevin Jordan on IR won't be available for the next 4 games. And this makes this signing just make that much more sense. The Texans went ahead and signed Irv Smith Jr., the former Alabama prospect, to the practice squad. Likely that he could be brought up to the active roster. And, this means one thing as well. We're going to see a ton more Cade Stover on this team, especially in the next weeks with Brevin Jordan being out. Look for Irv Smith to be elevated to the active roster as well, at least for this week before the Texans play the Minnesota Vikings. And for all the injury updates, everything you need to know around this squad, well, follow Aaron Wilson on Twitter, but also make sure you subscribe here for daily Texans content. I got you covered here on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. I'll be retweeting. I'll be making sure every single Texans move is noted and accounted for. So I got you covered. We got you with the latest updates, the latest news and rumors, and we have the most fun here on Texans Today. We are the fastest growing Texans YouTube channel out there, so go down and hit that subscribe button for free content. As we got some more roster moves on tap for you today. D'Angelo Ross signed to the active roster. Obviously, if you watched any of the preseason, you've heard this name before. He was with the Texans, signed with the practice squad, now being elevated to the active roster with Chris Boyd. I'm just seeing now going across my screen, not practicing today for the Texans. Another guy signed to the practice squad, a old face, Scott Quessenberry. He's been on the team before. Career 26 games started. He is signed to the practice squad, and this is going to be notable as well. I have some more injury news on tap later on in the program. I'm just waiting for some more stuff to be, texted to me, more stuff to come out. So I'll let you know at the end of today's show. But Scott Quessenberry signed to the practice squad, and Tommy Togiai also signed to the practice squad, a defensive tackle. So Texans making some more roster moves, some injury news as well on tap for you. I mean, a busy week as the Texans prepare for their Week 3 game up against the Minnesota Vikings. Up next, let's talk about Azeez Al-Shaair. And let's talk about what could possibly happen to the Texans starting middle linebacker, because there's going to be something that comes out from this right here. What will the league do? Will the NFL suspend Al-Shaair for that punch that he had on Sunday Night Football? I mean, I know a lot of Texans fans, they kind of swept it under the rug. They were like, oh yeah, that was a cool thing that happened, but there's probably going to be something that comes from that. So let me know down in the comment section, what do you think? Will the NFL suspend Azeez Al-Shaair for that punch? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. Usually YouTube likes to throw in an ad break right here. If you do get an ad, go ahead and scroll on down and let me know your thoughts. Will Azeez Al-Shaair be suspended? I don't think he'll be suspended at this point, but I do know he will more than likely get a hefty fine from the league. Whenever you have extracurriculars, whenever you punch another player, whenever you do that altercations after the whistle, the hammer's going to be laid down. Something's going to happen with Azeez Al-Shaair. If he gets suspended, that's some huge news for this Texans team, because you're already without Christian Harris, your other best linebacker. Yes, Henry To'oTo'o looked fantastic. He's been amazing through the first 2 weeks. But, I mean, this Texans team, I still think they still need Azeez Al-Shaair. Now, coming up next, what did DeMeco Ryans have to say about the whole Al-Shaair incident? And also, I have some more Texans news and notes from practice, some more injury news on tap for you today. So stick around for all that. But I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And one of my favorite plays that I'm looking at this week, I know he's been down for the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. I think this could be a big day for Tank Dell. They have Stephon Gilmore up there in Minnesota. I think he could be possibly shadowing Nico Collins with how good he's been playing. That means more opportunities for Stephon Diggs and one Tank Dell. I expect a big week out of Tank Dell this week, and that's why I'm going to have him in my lineup once I make it on PrizePicks this week. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So go get started today. PrizePicks, run your game. Now, let's talk about the injury updates. I want to, get into all that. But first, let's talk about what DeMeco Ryans had to say about Azeez Al-Shaair. This is straight from the head coach. From my perspective, seeing Azeez, he had a big hit on the quarterback, and everyone gets a little antsy when the quarterback gets hit on the sideline. But if the quarterback stays in, he's going to get hit. Now I think everybody's a little sensitive when there's a big hit in the league. We're still playing a physical game. You are going to get hit hard. What happened after that? Azeez, he's surrounded by a lot of players and also some staff, and they are surrounding him. We get people pushing Azeez and kicking, so as a game, we have to be better from protecting all players involved, especially when something happens on the opposite sideline. Just have to be better. We know from Azeez's perspective, we can't throw punches or anything like that. Just overall, we have to be able to protect players, and it goes both ways. You got guys surrounding with one of our players, uniform staff, and in that little mix-up, that's a problem, and we have to get it fixed. I love this. I love DeMeco Ryans coming out and defending his guy and setting the tone of this franchise. Let's not forget, before DeMeco Ryans, the Texans were in fact the laughingstock of the NFL. We were part of so many memes all over, NFL Twitter. Oh, the Texans suck. The Texans, they're a joke. The Texans, this and that. DeMeco Ryans is putting some respect on this team. He's saying, if you're coming to Houston, this ain't no patty cake. We're playing football, and we're going to hit you in the mouth. I love what DeMeco Ryans had to say, and he's defending his guy. Obviously, he put some blame. He said, Azeez, you can't punch somebody. Obviously, he put that out there. But in the same time, he's saying, hey, that's my guy. I'm defending him. And I understand that in that situation, he had 10 Bears players surrounding him, talking shit, messing with him, poking and prodding at him on the sidelines. And I think DeMeco's onto something. You have to watch out for that, because if you're an opposing player on that sideline, it can quickly turn in to 1-on-20. And how is that fair? How is that a safe situation for that one player who's on an opposing sideline? I think he makes a great point here that the NFL needs to look into this. The NFL needs to have repercussions of if you land on another sideline and somebody who's not in the game at that moment goes to interact with you. That should be a flag. That should be something. You can't just, mess with somebody because they happen to be on your sideline out of the game of play. That's not how it works. If you are on the sideline, you're not a part of the game at that moment. You need to stick your head out of everything that's going on in the game. I know he had that big hit on Caleb Williams, but just imagine something happens on the sideline. There's 10 guys right there. What would have happened if, 3 of those guys started hitting Azeez? He's there by himself up against 10 opposing players in enemy territory. That might make you feel like your back's against the wall, and you know what they say when a dog's got his back against the wall. He starts biting. So let me know. One word to describe the Texans under DeMeco Ryans. I want to hear your thoughts, because I am proud of our head coach. I am proud of the way he defends his players, and I'm proud of the way that he is trying to represent the city of H-Town and trying to rep this team and this culture that the Texans are trying to create under this squad. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Coming up, I have some more Texans injury updates, but my one word to describe this team, it's swarm, baby. You got to hit that swarm, because I think this totally encapsulates what I love about this football team and what I love about DeMeco Ryans and this coaching staff. I mean, right now, the Houston Texans on defense, they lead the league in tackling percentage. They have the least amount of missed tackles out of every team in the National Football League. They are playing hard-nosed football. They are getting after it, and they are taking no plays off. And I absolutely love that mentality, especially as a Texans team who this organization's never come into a league with as high as expectations as they do right now. When you have those high expectations, you got to play relentlessly every single down because other teams notice that. Other teams that are coming in say, hey, we think you're overrated. We think all these pundits, all these other, NFL gurus who are talking about the Texans, we think they're wrong. We think you're overrated. So you got to shut them up. You got to show them that it's not all hype, that this team is actually good and we are here to contend in the AFC. I love that instinct from DeMeco Ryans. All right. I promised you more injury updates. Let's get to it right now. Joe Mixon, let's talk about him first of all. There was a report from Dan Graziano yesterday saying that a lot of people around the league are expecting Joe Mixon could miss this week, maybe 2 weeks. He did not practice today, so it's more than likely that Joe Mixon will not be playing on Sunday up against the Minnesota Vikings with that ankle injury. As reported, it's not seen to be something serious, but they don't want it turning into something serious. Obviously, if you have an ankle injury, if you have a pre-existing condition going into a game, you can obviously get it injured even more by playing. So I think the Texans play it safe, and Joe Mixon will more than likely not be out there this week. Another guy who might miss this week, Dameon Pierce. He also did not practice today. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. And as we've mentioned, those soft tissue injuries, they're a killer because you never know when they're going to heal. You never know when somebody's going to be good to go. Also, Aaron Wilson, he reported this. The Texans, as we mentioned earlier, they signed Scott Quessenberry to the practice squad. Per league source, Juice Scruggs, who missed this week with a groin injury, is on track to return. So that's good news. He didn't practice today, but reports are that he is probably going to be good to go on Sunday up against the Vikings. But very interesting, and producer Colin, I'm glad you added this graphic in there. Jarrett Patterson, the guy who started for Juice Scruggs, also missed practice today. Not a good look, not a good sign for this Texans offensive line, especially if Juice Scruggs isn't good to go. Jarrett Patterson's injured. I mean, Scott Quessenberry, you've had him on the team before, but that's not really who you want starting at the center position. Do they possibly move over a Kendrick Green who has played center before for the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's the backup guard now. Do they move him to center and then maybe move up Quessenberry to be a backup? This is going to be very interesting as we get closer and closer to game time to see who's in, who's out on this offensive line. Because if you remember my video yesterday, my number one key to victory for this Texans team to get a W against the Minnesota Vikings was the offensive line needed to step up. And that starts on the interior with guys like Juice Scruggs, possibly Jarrett Patterson, or maybe even Scott Quessenberry. As we look at this offensive line, I mean, Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green, Shaq Mason, Titus Howard, they're going to need to put it together, but what's going to happen at the center position? Make sure to follow me on Twitter as I keep you updated throughout the week with all the Texans injuries and everything going on around this Texans team. I'll let you know if Azeez Al-Shaair does end up getting suspended or what penalty he does end up getting from the NFL. And as always, hit that sub button for daily Texans news and rumors content. You know I got you covered on the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube. So go down and hit that subscribe button.